Now my pleasure to introduce our next speakers. We have Brett Skudova from BHP and BHP graduate, so give them a warm welcome.
Awesome, thank you. You guys want to roll? Thank you. Good afternoon, big day in. How are we doing? All right, you can do a little bit better, just a little bit better. Good afternoon, big day in. How are we doing? Good. There we go, perfect. Now, how many of you have heard of BHP? Can you raise your hand? Fantastic. We should have about 100% because I think we saw all y'all out there in the lobby. But as you know, BHP is a leading global resources company. And what our purpose is to bring people and resources together to build a better world. And at BHP, the future is really clear for us, as the resources that we produce are essential. And when you look at that, the iron ore that we produce builds cities. The copper that we produce is found in electronics, in all electronics, the gifts that we just gave away. In fact, an electronic car requires 4 times more copper than a combustible engine car. The nickel that we produce helps those batteries that we have that are in those electronic cars, as well as the batteries that you have in your cell phones. And the potash that we're bringing to market is helping feed a growing population in this space. So at BHP, we really do think big. And technology is just as important as BHP as our resources. And it spans everything that we do. It spans from cloud computing to data analytics to automation, which you got to experience out in the hallway. And we do that from global cities across Australia, from Singapore to Santiago. And so really what we want to do today is really have the opportunity to introduce to you what an exciting career you can have in technology. And what I want to do today is really explain that through some of these fantastic graduates that we have here, who each day are applying technology and thinking big to bring people and resources together. So let's get to learn a little bit more about the stars of our presentation, our technology grads. So let's start here. Felicia, can you just give a little introduction?
Hi everyone, my name is Felicia. I was originally born in Mauritius. So for those of you who don't know where Mauritius is, it's a small island off the coast of Madagascar. I moved over here in 2004 and I'm currently living on the Gold Coast. A little bit about myself is that I start my day with the Wordle. I am a big Marvel fan. I think Thor is the best Avenger. And I'm a really big lover of music. I've completed 8 AMEB piano exams, and here's a photo that I took of Khalid performing live at Splendour. In terms of my education, I completed a double degree in mathematics and finance. I graduated in 2019 at QUT. I went on to complete a master's in business data analytics, which I completed at Bond Uni last year. So while I was studying, I worked in a call centre for a travel company, and it was really awesome to get some corporate life experience. Now that I'm at BHP doing my first rotation, I'm currently in the performance and improvement value analytics team. We currently look at all the processes and the value chains at our sites and see how we can make them more effective. I'll pass it over to Tom.
Wonderful, thanks Felicia. So my name is Tom. I was originally from Canberra, but I moved to the sunny state in high school, where I finished high school off at Nudgee College, which I think we got a few in the room. And then a little bit about me. I love adventuring, surfing, walking, so I got a few photos behind. I've been to all states and territories in Australia, so that's a big love of mine. For studies, I did mathematics at the Queensland University of Technology, and went back to do more, completing my honours, and I did a topic on my thesis on distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine, which was very topical. During uni, I unwinded at my job at Bunnings Warehouse, which was great in the timber yard there. Got to see a lot of customers' dogs every day, which was awesome. Currently at BHP, I'm working within the asset BMA in the business planning team, where we work to structure a 5-year plan for the asset on all our production, budgeting, and it ultimately gets signed off on by the CEO. So that was all about me. I'll pass on to Shalini.
Thanks, Tom. Hi everyone, my name is Shalini. So a little bit about me. I was actually born in India, but I didn't stay in India very long. My family travelled a lot because my dad was an engineer. I have actually been to 16 different schools, which is a lot. Really hard to keep friends when social media wasn't super big. A little bit about me. I have a thing for France. I don't know why, I always had it growing up. So in 2018, when I finally got to visit France and taste real croissants, I decided that I wanted to teach myself how to speak French before I go back. So I've been using Duolingo to learn how to speak French. Currently, my streak is 356 days. Let me know if you can top that. I'm also teaching myself how to read music and play the piano, but really we shouldn't talk about that in front of Felicia with all her grades. In terms of education, I studied at UQ. I graduated with software engineering and business management. And while studying, I did a lot of different jobs. Like I worked as a barista, I worked as a pizza artist. I also did a lot of industry placements and did some internships as a software developer. And I was also actually involved in a lot of extracurricular activities at university. So this time last year, some of you might recognise me, I was actually co-hosting this event with Gabriel over there, who's co-hosting again, fortunately. So yeah, in terms of BHP, I am currently in the Systems Operations Engineering team. What we basically look at is real-time data platforms. We develop all these platforms and hand it over to our operations team, who actually run operations remotely in Brisbane City. In a nutshell, basically what happens is on site, we have a lot of different sensors and they're all connected and we send real-time data into the Brisbane office to help run the operations. So that's currently what I'm looking at. Over to you, Brett.
Thanks, Shalini. And my name is Brett. And as you probably can tell, I'm not a true blue Australian. I am from the United States, and my career at BHP has really brought me all across the globe, from the United States to Chile, over to Perth, and then out here in Brisbane, where I am the head of strategy. Quite a while ago, I studied management information systems and information systems audit and control, and then I went on to get my MBA at university. However, I think what's going to be more keen for us and more applicable for the conversation today is really understanding what our technology grads have studied. And so the question I have first to you, Shalini, is why did you choose to study technology?
That's a pretty loaded question for myself. There's quite a few reasons that led me to technology. Firstly, I'm not sure if anyone here is an older child, but by default that means you're your tech support person for your family and friends. So that was me. I was super tech savvy growing up, so I kind of knew that I wanted to pursue something in technology. And obviously, like I said, my dad was an engineer, and in high school, I really enjoyed maths and physics, so I kind of knew that I wanted to go down the engineering pathway. And I guess with engineering, there were so many disciplines, and in my first year, you don't really have to know what major you want to do. So for me, it was like making a decision without really making a decision. So going into technology, because it's so broad and it's applicable to every single industry, I liked the flexibility that technology had to offer. So obviously with COVID and all those things happening, remote work is so easy now, and I really enjoyed traveling. I also really wanted to be able to travel while still working full time. So with technology, I'm really able to have the flexibility, be creative, be innovative, but still be able to travel and, you know, be involved in all the different industries that I want to, should I want to pivot.
Awesome. Tom, why did you choose to study technology?
Yeah, so my story is pretty similar, but a little different. I can imagine, like many of you in the room, you really didn't have an idea. I didn't have any clue what I wanted to do at uni, so I went to the source of all truth and Googled top 10 jobs in the next 10 years, and they all were technology. So I thought, since I love maths and physics and I wasn't a big fan of English or writing, I chose mathematics at university. So it was a broad degree that hit all those categories for the top 10 jobs, and it allowed me to be able to go around all forms of technology, being such a broad degree, and not just get locked into a career path. So that's why I chose to study technology.
And Felicia?
So for me in high school, similar to Tom and Shalini, I did a lot of STEM-based subjects like maths B and C, which I think are named differently today, I've also done science classes like biology and chemistry. And I guess numeracy and science sort of came easier to me coming from a non-English speaking background. So with that, I transitioned into technology, which I really enjoyed. I did a project at uni and we looked at the e-commerce giants like Alibaba and Amazon. And it was really awesome to see how they've been able to implement AI technology in their services. With Amazon, they've got a Go concept store. They've got about 4 in Chicago where it's, just like a 7-Eleven with no staff or registers. You simply walk in, grab the products or the groceries that you need and just walk out. And with facial recognition, they're able to identify the customer and also pair it with their account. And it's just really awesome to see how big the projects that you can work on and big data that you can use in technology.
So just building on that, Felicia, why did you then choose to pursue a technology career in mining here at BHP?
For me, mining, and I guess more specifically BHP offers the ability to learn something outside of your discipline, and it's really awesome to get that extra exposure, especially when you don't really know sort of what field you want to go in. And it's good that BHP provide that and even push for it sometimes. And you get a lot of different variety, specifically in technology. As Brett mentioned, you can go from the autonomous haulage fleets to digital factory, cloud factory, data analytics. It's great to see BHP having a variety of different technology fields.
And Tom, why did you choose a career in mining?
Yeah, so my family's always been involved in mining. So my dad and brother are involved in the industry. So I sort of always had an idea of just how big mining was. And then finding BHP and the technology, I saw just how big they were as well. So I knew there'd be opportunities and potential out there. And I think technology was a great way through BHP to get into mining without actually knowing anything about mining. So in my first week, I learnt more than I could have ever imagined about mining, which was great. And I also went down the mining avenue because I knew that I'd be working on projects through BHP that actually had a real world impact and not just doing these projects for a grade or to pass a subject, to actually have an impact on the environment and people. So that's why I chose mining.
Awesome. And Shalini?
So I feel like Felicia and Tom kind of stole my answers. I guess to add to it, one other factor that really played an important part for me was trying to figure out what kind of workplace I wanted to be a part of, what kind of impact I wanted to make, and whether my values were aligning with BHP or the company that I was going to work for full time. I mean, especially when you transition to full-time work, you're spending a lot of time working with the people that you're going to be working with. So it's really important that you enjoy the workplace that you're working at. For me, how I found out if my values were going to align with BHP was going to networking events like this as a student, and even as a university student, you have even more opportunities to have conversations with representatives from companies, but especially BHP company. So for me, that was another big factor that played a big role in me deciding to come to BHP and try out mining and do something a bit bigger than my previous internships. Sorry.
Awesome. I think one of the key things here, the thing for me why I chose a career in mining, is really just the scale, how big it is. And at BHP, we really do think big. And as you have seen in the hallway, really everything at BHP is big. The trucks are big, the autonomous haul fleet is big, the career opportunities are big, and the positive impact we make on society is actually quite big as well. So building on that concept, Shalini, can you share with me kind of what are some of the exciting or projects that you are currently working on?
So like I mentioned, I'm looking at real-time data platforms. So on our mine sites, we have a lot of different sensors that are connected to a little computer. It's called a PLC. So I'm currently looking at programming one of those PLCs to take the data coming from all these sensors, and then I'm going to be processing this data and doing some calculations if I need to, or identifying what's going on and displaying it into a dashboard that the operation teams can use and refer to in real time. And what we also do is actually set up notifications, so whether that's email or text notifications to anyone on site, if something does need urgent attention, which is, I guess the importance of this in mining specifically is that we have so many sensors in so many different places. For example, if you have a tap and you want to see how much water pressure is coming out of that tap, and then you want to see if that's actually filled up the dam, we'll have sensors to check the dam levels, we'll have sensors to check what the pressures are like on the tap, and then if you want to turn off the tap without actually physically going to the tap, we also automate that kind of stuff. So I'm actually looking at doing a full end-to-end project to program that little computer, set up the platforms, and then we'll be handing it over to another team that actually maintains and uses it on a daily basis. That's currently what I'm looking at.
Awesome. Tom.
So while I'm not in an area that's specifically technology, we do use a lot of it in the 5-year plan that I'm working on at the moment. So in the asset BMA, which is Queensland Coal, we're forecasting and predicting the next 5 years of everything. So how much production, whether we need to buy or sell equipment, what the budget's going to be like. And a lot of that does boil down to raw calculations of forecasting, predicting, and then also optimizing what we're going to do. So I've come in halfway in that project, and ultimately it'll boil down to a single document that will land on the CEO's desk. So I've actually been lucky enough to work out a production forecast, which is going in the back end of that document. So pretty cool that hopefully something I've done in my first 8 weeks will end up on the CEO's desk.
Awesome. Felicia.
So for me, currently in the value analytics team, we're working on looking at all the different processes at our North Queensland sites. So we start off with looking at an exploratory analysis on all the processes or value chains at the sites. Things like the drill and blast, the load and haulage, our coal and recovery, the drag lines, and the processing plants. So using the data that gets collected at site, we look at where issues are arising or machines or processes that aren't as effective. We then do a deep dive into that process and look at all different variables like how long trucks are waiting, how long cycles are being completed. And so we then are able to provide feedback to our leadership team and give them recommendations on how we can make some of the processes more effective.
Awesome. I think those are just really good examples of really some big work and exciting work that we have. I know I kind of want to have some of those jobs as well. I'm sure some of the students here in the audience would as well. So if I was in your place then, what would a typical day or week in the life be like for you? So let's start with you, Felicia.
So a day-to-day, or I guess week-to-week for me, because we do a lot of project work, our project has a time frame of 6 months, and we basically sprint out or task out a lot of different tasks, and they're to be completed in fortnightly sort of time frame. So my day-to-day, we do daily stand-ups where we talk about what we've completed the day before, what we're intending to complete today, and any blockers or assistance that we're needing from the team. Once our tasks are completed for the fortnight, we do showcases to present the pieces of analysis that we've done and receive feedback from our leadership team on, what we can improve or how we can progress.
Awesome. Tom.
Awesome. So a day in the life for me currently at BHP. We've got a lot of meetings in the morning where we get to do collaborative work but also align on any issues or blockers in projects that we're working on. So for the 5-year plan, we meet every morning to align on the day's goals and then sort of set out to break down that work. So then always have lunch, most important part of the day, and then into the afternoon working either by myself on some analysis or trying to gather data, or we do a lot of collaborative work where a small team of like 2 or 3 will have like an hour in the afternoon to workshop ideas and try and sort out issues that will lead to then eventually completing these projects.
Awesome. And Shalina, what's your day-to-day?
For me, I get into the office quite early because I have a very complicated coffee order, so I try not to hog the machine for the rest of the day. So I spend about 10 minutes at my coffee machine trying to make a coffee. And once I have my coffee, I actually go back to my desk and check in with my team members. A lot of my team members are actually located in different states, so we typically check in the morning and see how everything's going, if we have any goals that we need to meet by the end of the day. After doing that, typically also have lunch, which is very important. And then I spend the second hour of the day actually completing project work and making sure I meet all my deadlines.
Awesome. So I just really want to thank all of you for really sharing really fantastic stories. And now what we want to do is open it up to you, the audience, and see if you have any questions around technology or careers in technology. If you could raise your hand, what we'll do is we'll just go from that end. I'll start right here.
Do you have any
Internship programs. So the question was, do we have any internship programs? And we most certainly do have internship programs. And what we'll do is we engage across Australia and the globe in those spaces. And so I would encourage you to go to bhp.com/careers, and that will share you all with that. And if you follow us on the social media platforms, we actually start announcing when we do this. But it's absolutely exciting that you're looking forward towards internships. I highly recommend that. Any other questions? Right here in the middle with the hat. How do we mine? It's a really good question. So basically, mining has evolved significantly, and what you've heard a little about today, we have autonomous vehicles as well. So there's drilling aspects of it where we actually go and drill, we then blast, we dig and scoop, and then there's a whole value chain along that with autonomous trucks that are actually then carrying these to processing plants, and then from those processing plants making their way from the pit to the port to the end customers. Does anyone have any on that side? Perfect. Oh, right there you go. What are the different software tools that we have at BHP? Felicia.
Hello. Okay. So currently in the Value and Analytics team, we currently use Python as a coding program. But we have dabbled in R as well. So we use that to do a lot of our data cleaning and our data analysis.
Awesome.
In the real-time data, we don't do a lot of programming, but what we do is use a lot of OSI soft tools, which is like a historian tool that collates all the data and has lots of AF structures that you can use. It's a bit complicated.
Awesome. I think the benefit we have as a company the size and scale of BHP, we have a lot of tools that you get to use and play around in. We have time for 2 more questions. I'll start here.
So your autonomous vehicles, what's the average tonnage of your autonomous vehicles?
That is a good question. I actually do not have the specific number for you there. I'll have to dig it up. What I would encourage you to do, go on to bhp.com and actually go to our YouTube page. We'll delve in a little bit in there, but you actually get to see the process end to end. So you can see some of the world's largest blasts that we actually have. You can see very large drag lines that are the size of this building getting moved around. And then you actually will get to see some of those autonomous trucks and those vehicles as we explain that journey. But great question. One last question. I'll go right here by the...
How many different types of pathways you have for IT and ICT stuff?
So the question was around how many pathways. So
How many types of pathways?
Types of pathways. It's a really good question. So at a macro level, what you'll have is you'll have your traditional management side, and you'll have your technical skill set side as well. And on the technology side, we span everything from analytics to agile project management to full stack development, site reliability engineers, cloud engineers, you name it, we have it full end to end. I think really our panel here is actually a really good representation of that space of really diversity of skill set that we bring on board. But really good question. We're involved in very heavily in end-to-end technology. So what you traditionally envision us having, we have that, and then we're continuing to grow that, as Shalini mentioned, to become more inclusive and representative. Awesome. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. I think it was a great session for us, and we really encourage you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett, Shalini, Felicia, and Thomas for that amazing presentation.